Thank you, everybody. I suppose just to start off, my name is Darren Horan. I'm from Limerick 2030. So I guess today's presentation, I'm just going to give you a bit of background on Limerick 2030 as an organisation and then take you through the Opera project and some of the progress we're making down there on site. I guess myself, I'm born and bred in Limerick. I went to the University Limerick and qualified in 2006. And since then, I have worked a couple of years in London, 3 years actually, 7 years in Australia, and since I came back to Ireland back in 2018, I joined Limerick 2030 in 2021, and I guess since then my responsibility has been to manage the Opera Square project. So, just in terms of Limerick 2030, the background to it, so it was established back in 2016 by Limerick City and County Council, and you probably need to understand the context that it was established. So I suppose at the time we were coming out of the GFC, and there was a real demand in the city to create jobs and to stimulate economic activity. So there was a need, I guess, for public to step in. So Limerick 2030 was set up, and the idea was for this special purpose vehicle basically to plan and to deliver strategic sites. So there was a number of different sites around the city which had laid idle for a number of years, and our role, I guess, was to take those, to bring them through planning permission, bring them through design, and eventually make, I guess, the design a reality on site. So that's it. I guess our vision is to be recognised internationally as enablers of economic growth and investment. And that's through the development and, innovative and sustainable development. So that is through the delivery of projects. And effectively, it's to make Limerick, a more pleasurable place to grow up and to live, to learn and to work effectively. So I guess we are looking to improve the quality of life for Limerick and to proactively kind of position this region and Limerick for the future. So I guess we are trying to strive to break down the barriers in terms of sustainability, in terms of, LEED, WELL and WiredScore accreditation, which is kind of IT technology and future proofing of our buildings. In terms of our portfolio, so starting with Gardens International, so we acquired Gardens International in 2017. It had laid vacant on Henry Street for about 10 years, so the previous developer had gone bust. We took it from there and we completed in 2019. It's currently occupied by Transact and Nordic Aviation, who are an aircraft leasing company. We're actually temporarily on the top floor as well, but we're looking to offload the top 2 floors. So if any of the organizations listening in today are interested, there's some fine space over there. So it was the first of its kind. It was LEED Gold certified, and it's a brilliant example of taking a site that had been vacant and I guess delivering a world-class development here in Limerick City. Beyond that, Cleves Riverside. So anybody close enough to the window, if you look over, you'll see the chimney over there. So that's the Cleves Riverside Quarter. That's a 10-acre site, so it's about 2.5 times the size of the Opera site. So that's already gone through master planning. We're looking to go in for planning permission, our planning application towards the end of 2024. And the priority for that site is residential. So we all know the challenges that we're facing today. And I guess there's the real priority there is residential, albeit we do have some third-level education. There'll be world-class public realm fronting onto the river there as well. So I guess that's one to look out for in the future there. And the last 2 below there, Mungrove Park Residential and Ballygrennan, again, primarily residential. The first one, Mungrove Park Residential, was actually wrapped up in judicial review for a couple of years. Thankfully, now it's gone past that. So we're hitting the ground running over there. And Ballygrennan is an application that's just recently gone in. And then, of course, Opera Square, which is probably the main focus of today's discussion. So in terms of the Opera Square development, where did it come from? So again, this site was acquired by the council in 2012. It was a vacant site, so a lot of existing buildings on the site that have been vacant for many, many years, right? And it was set down, the objectives for the site were set down in the 2013 Economic and Spatial Plan. And the 5 objectives, so number 1 was for this to be a business and employment hub. So again, it was to meet the needs of the time on the back of the GFC, to try to create jobs in the middle of Limerick City and to stimulate economic activity. The second thing is relocation of the revenue commissioners from Sarsfield House over to the 14-story building. So, and what's key about that is, number 1, having that anchor tenant who would be the revenue commissioner as a government entity allowed us to get low interest loans from the European Central Bank and European Investment Bank. The second thing is it releases the waterfront and the world-class waterfront project there. So to create that between, just say, Arthur's Quay Park all the way to the city council building. Third thing, it's a regeneration project. So as Paul just said, this is a transformative project. We're taking a site that has been idle, and it's been, it's been a long time coming. There's been many iterations for the site, but we're looking at restoring and keeping a lot of the existing buildings. And in the context of today's discussion about circular economy, an important part of that is using the buildings that we have at the moment, refurbishing them, and I suppose repurposing them where we can. The last two, I guess, this is really what we're giving back to the people of Limerick and the people of the Midwest. So we want to create a vibrant public space, and that is to create a destination. Again, we all know the struggles of Limerick and many of the cities in Ireland attracting people into the city centre, and we want to create a space where people will want to go to. And then the campus will also include a new city library. So this will be one of the biggest of its kind. Like what we say is it is the soul of the development. So commercial space is obviously targeted to certain audiences, but the new city library is there for everybody. And it will be world class. And I guess the tagline that was put on it will be a living room for Limerick. So it will be for Limerick and its people. Just a couple of stats, right? So in terms of capacity, it's 550,000 square foot gross. It'll accommodate about 3,000 jobs between the offices and the library. And the hotel construction jobs, so it'll peak at 500. At the moment, there's about 130, 140 down on site, but we will have 2 further contracts on site by the end of the year. Development cost is up over 300 million. So I suppose everybody kind of understands the challenges on the back of COVID and the disruption to supply chains and the war in Ukraine. So obviously we've had to meet that challenge, but luckily we've managed to get investment in from a number of other different sources, and we're progressing. And lastly, I guess the vision for the development, it is world class. We are targeting international clients. It's not just for Ireland, it's not just for the region, it is targeting an international audience. And for that reason, we're striving to obtain just say LEED Platinum, WELL Platinum, and WiredScore Platinum. So it'll be one of maybe a dozen buildings in the country that has that type of accreditation. So that's just an idea of the site. So again, it was acquired by the council in 2012. So you just see a lot of kind of old warehouses in the middle, and there was extensions to the rear of the existing. So everything within the red line is within the site boundary, and then there's a couple of buildings just on the northern side which are owned by third parties. So in terms of how it's divided up, so we're actually delivering it in 5 different contracts. The first of which was a demolition enabling package. The second, which is on site at the moment, which we refer to as Contract B, which is the construction of a site-wide basement, 10,000 square meters, and a 6-story office building. So that's about €90 million construction value. Contract D, which has skipped ahead of Contract C at the moment, so that's the 14-story building and refurbishment of the granary, which is circa about 80 million. And then Contract C, which is the library, 4 Upper Square, and the public realm plaza, which is about 65 million. So all of those, the C and D, I guess the intent is that they would be on site by the end of the year. Just a kind of a note in terms of funding. So where's the funding for these buildings coming from? So we've got about 1/3 of the funding of the 300 million is coming from private investment. About 2/3 is coming for either local authority or government. And effectively, it is a complex, I guess my role, one of the complex parts of it is dealing with all the different stakeholders on this site. So we have 5, we've got ourselves, we will manage the sites when it's finished, and we are a part of a 50% part of a joint venture company called Treaty Stone, which is a partnership with the Irish Strategic Investment Fund, who will fund and will own the 6-story office building. The library is obviously the council, the granary is the council, and the 14 stories the revenue commissioner, so it's a government building. And lastly, the Contract D, which I just got up there, that is a hotel, and it takes in Quinn's Bar and a number of the Georgians on Ellen Street and Patrick Street, and that's going to be delivered by a third party. So just to delve into a bit more detail, and I did note that I only had 15 minutes, so I don't want to go too far over the line, but just to delve into a bit of detail on the individual buildings. So the 6-story office building It's about 10,000 square meters net. It can accommodate over 900 people. Again, I've mentioned that we're going for LEED Well and WireScore Platinum, so that's been designed and we're on target to reach that. And then an important part of it, I guess, we've got some commercial units down on the ground floor, level 3 of them, which is there to activate the public realm, and that's an important part of it. So that's just another visual of looking across the square. In terms of the basement, so we've got 155 car spaces. We've got 17 EV charging, but actually everything EV charging can be accommodated across the car park is facilitated. There's plant space, ancillary space for the buildings above, and probably the kind of 3 important things, I guess, in terms of sustainability and again just kind of showing the ambition of the development. So end of trip facilities. You know, everybody knows that we need to start moving away from cars and start supporting walkers and cyclists. So we've got about 311 bike storage spaces down in the basement. We've got really high-end end-of-trip facilities, lockers, shower rooms, centralized waste management strategy and goods delivery strategy. The only thing to be said about that, I guess, again, from a waste perspective, we don't want bins on the street. We want them taken down into the basement, moved, stored there for a time, moved into the service yard, so they're off-site at 6 o'clock in the morning. Nobody's looking at them. And similarly, goods delivery strategy. That's just about kind of mitigating congestion on the streets. So that's the basement. I'm just going to skip through these. So that's the 14th story. I'm not going to go through that in any detail. Probably just stop on the granary for a minute. So the granary is the oldest building on the site. It's from the 1780s, actually. And we are, I guess, just another example of keeping that building and upgrading the energy performance of the building. So we're replacing all the windows, we're repointing all the stonework, we're replacing the roof and putting insulation in the roof, and then we're putting a new heating system throughout. So that's going to accommodate the council. They're going to go back into that building. And again, you just see a nice view of one of the restaurants there, which is has a sunken terrace outside. So anybody that would have frequented Trinity Rooms back in the day would be familiar with that area. So that's it. In terms of the city library, again, just a really good example, just to touch on it. So we're delivering turnkey, so it's a full fit out of that building, and it's 4,700 square meters of library. So it is pretty big, and it's going to be one of the biggest in the country. I've got a video which will kind of give you a little bit of insight as to the level of detail in it. But it is, I suppose, again, an important part of it is we're restoring the old town hall building, which is from the 1800s, and then a couple of Georgian buildings, 8 and 9 Rutland Street, which have been really, really challenging. But what we've created, you know, we're kind of blending the new with the old, and the architects, Henry J. Lyons, have done a fantastic job doing that. And they're building an atrium back to the rear, but it's just a really, really impressive design and showing what you can do, I guess, with a sympathetic approach to taking heritage and blending it with the new. So I guess that whole development, it will have an event space for 100 people. There's community and sensory rooms in there. There's cafe and outdoor terrace, and there's dedicated children's area up in the second floor as well. And I think one point to make about the City Library, some people mightn't get excited about that. They think it's a place that you just go read. It's not. This is an international standard library. It's a place that you will want to bring your kids, or you'll want to go yourself. There's recording studios in there. So it's something for everybody. This is a destination where visitors come to the city. They will want to go to this library. So I think we're really proud of the design, and now it's about making that a reality. Again, public realm, it's a really important part of it. So we've got about, I don't know, 8 or 9 restaurants and cafes that are backing onto this square. It's really unique, I guess. So it is an internal square. You don't get many of them in Ireland. So you will be sitting here and you won't be, my apologies. Bad timing. So yeah, so I guess it'll be a fantastic place. You'll be separated from cars around you, and it's kind of a bit like I'd say it's a bit like Rome, not exactly, but it's a bit like Rome, where you walk into one of these squares and there's a big reveal behind the buildings. Okay, you don't really realize what you got until you walk in there. So we've got lots of planter beds, lots of places to sit and enjoy the space. And then one of the key features, so we've got a mirror pool. Anybody that's been up to Dundrum or over the Granary Square over in London, they've got this mirror pool. It's a thin layer of water, and you've got playful jets, and they synchronize it with music and lights and this kind of thing. And that, again, that's just an attraction to animate the space. But I suppose an important part of that is that can be drained down, and we can use this space for concerts, for markets, for outdoor cinema, and it is actually earmarked for a fan zone for September 2027 for the Ryder Cup as well. So again, I think this is, you know, the part of the scheme that really excites me and excites Limerick 2030, and it's one that I guess the public should look forward to. That's just a view at night looking back towards the library. So that's the design, that's the vision, and then the reality, how we're going on site. So this is the site as we took it over, and the red buildings there are the buildings that were demolished. So a lot of the industrial buildings, there were a couple of 1980s buildings that were demolished, and that were to accommodate the future developments. But again, importantly, we retained 16 out of the 18 heritage buildings on site. That was the works. So work started in 2021, and then at the end of 2022, that was the way the site was looking. So effectively, I suppose an interesting fact about this is that any of the material that had been demolished was crushed and was spread across the site, about half a metre of it as a capping layer across the site. So there was a clean surface to start on, and has since been used for piling mats and sort of and other uses as well. So trying to divert from landfill, which was pretty successful in that first part of the project. In January 2023, we appointed CISC, and they started works for the basement and one upper square. So the picture on the left there just shows the piling work. So we've got 3 piling rigs started on site. The one on the right shows the excavation in one upper square just shortly afterwards. That's just a view of the CCAN perimeter wall, which is about 4.5 kilometers across the site. That's just a view of concrete pour. So we've got post-tension slab across basement slab and podium slab. So a huge, I suppose, one thing to stop on that, it is a huge logistical challenge for the contractor to deliver. I think there was about 900 cubic meters of concrete poured in one day. So we've got a local provider, O'Connell's, bringing the concrete in from 6 o'clock in the morning till 3, and then floating it off. So we've had people down on site there at 3 o'clock in the morning floating off concrete. So, you know, I suppose that pretty successful so far, and just gives you an idea of the level of activity. So in terms of what we've actually completed on site, so we've got 4.5 kilometers of basement perimeter piling done. So it's over 800 piles. We've got it all, most of the bearing piles underneath the buildings are done. We've got about 71,000 tons excavated from site, and that's about 70% of the site. We've completed the basement structure, which is the basement slab, podium slab of the 6-story office building, and that was an important milestone for us as it triggered the investment for the superstructure above. And then we're obviously progressing with the basement slab and the podium slab and the rest of the development for the subsequent contracts. So again, I just put in a couple of slides here in relation to sustainability. Okay, I'm by no means an expert on this stuff, right? So I guess just a couple of things. We mentioned the existing buildings. In terms of resource and waste management, we would have done a pre-demolition audit, and that just gives you an idea of how we're tracking waste. So we're segregating material on site, we're creating waste logs, and we're using material. Sustainable design, I probably touched on a few of those, and research initiatives, I might just skip through that because Peter's given me the hurry on. So there's, in terms of design, I guess just a few of the key things there about building energy performance and efficiency, and carbon reduction. So one of the key things we would have changed from in situ concrete to PT. We saved about 2,000 tons of steel and 2,000 cubic meters of concrete. So that's just an example. Probably another one then is just around raw materials. So the specification in terms of responsible resourcing of materials and EPDs, so I guess sustainability is embedded within the design. That's just an example of how reuse of materials. So we have transported 5,000 tons off-site to Foynes for reuse. 75 tons went to Herbestown to construct a wall, and 125 tons went to the council depot. So we are trying to reuse as much as possible. Just to note on this, there's a couple of research projects, I guess. We've got 2 with EPA, which are, there's a joint venture with the Irish Green Building Council, and we're in collaboration with the ATU, LTT, and it's the Southern Region Waste Management Office. So there's a master's student sitting in our office over who's going to assess pre-construction, construction, and operation. So that's just an idea. Last but not least, or just in terms of digital technology, again, maybe people in the room are interested, but it is a full BIM project. We are delivering LOD 500, so it would have gone to market at probably LOD 2 or 3, and now the CISC responsibility and bringing it to LOD 5. So I guess just the top right hand side just gives you an idea of the level of coordination Yeah, so I suppose the benefit of that will be in ensuring that that does improve program, and that we're not no abortive works, I guess, when we this is on site at the moment. So that's where the benefit of them should come through. And again, that's just an idea. So within the basement, we've got clearance zones for delivery trucks and the like, and within the model, modal planes are set up just, and clash detection is done just to make sure the designers are working within certain spaces. And just a couple of more, Paul, do I have a couple of more minutes? Gone over? Quick. All right, so again, just how we're using technology on site. So I guess we've got BIM Compare, which is comparing the actual to the model, and then we've got live checks on excavations and live contours. We've also, probably an important part of it is that we also use, just say, the BIM model for logistics and work sequencing, which is one. So that's the 4D synchro, and also renders for promotional and marketing materials. So I've got one video. I'm going to skip ahead and not show this one. So I guess this just gives you an idea of, I'll show this one. So this just gives you an idea of the 4D synchro effectively. So we're asking all tenders to provide logistics and work sequencing. So to give us an understanding of, I guess, how they're planning, their methodology for planning the works, and given the complexity of the site and the follow-on contracts, we needed to have a clear understanding how they were going to go about doing the work. So this just gives you, I guess, an idea of the power of that type of technology, I guess.